Hello and welcome to the College Fairs of Greater Denver. We're so excited to have you participating in this event. We have some fantastic panels for you today. My name is Jenny and I'll be your facilitator for Finding a College Fit and Match panel. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Your camera and microphone are off so the panelists cannot see or hear you. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out the schedule on the website. This presentation is being recorded and will be available at strivescan.com/Greater Denver. I'd now like to turn it over to Kelly and the rest of our panel.
Hi, everyone. In order to start, we will begin with introductions, and then I will provide an overview of the content that we will share with you, and then we'll be in for some questions and answers. We're really excited to have all of you joining us. My name is Kelly Nolan. I'm the Senior Associate Director for Recruitment and Outreach in the Office of Admissions at Colorado State University. It's actually my 5th institution. My whole career has been in higher ed, and I've worked at a lot of different types of schools. So not only is there a right fit for students, but there's an important part of finding fit for people who work at those institutions as well. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Angie so she can introduce herself.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. My name is Angie Fernandez-Barone. I am Director of Admissions Communications at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And just to contrast on that fit note that you brought up there, Kelly, I've spent over 30 years in college admissions, all at my alma mater. So very excited to talk with you all tonight.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Gianeschi. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Colorado Mountain College. I've actually spent much of my career working in admission and worked at a number of different institutions. And I actually at one point was one of the directors of the Daniels Fund, where we sent hundreds of students to colleges all over the country. So got to hear and learn from all those students during that time. So glad to be with you tonight, and we hope that we can answer some questions for all of you that are searching for the right fit.
Great. Thanks, Angie and Matt. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So just bear with me for a second while I get this done. All right. Can everybody see my slides okay? Matt, can you verify? Yep. Okay, great. All right. So our session today is called Finding a College Fit and Match. And we're going to cover quite a bit of content in a short period of time today. We'll begin with a brief discussion of the why, what, and how of fit. And then we will talk about some different institutional types. I will speak about public universities. Angie will talk about liberal arts colleges. And then Matt will finish up by discussing open enrollment and community colleges. And like I said, we'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions, but also feel free to add any questions that you have throughout our presentation to the Q&A section. We'll be answering those questions as we go along. So why is fit important? I think we talk a lot about this, and I know that it can feel like a really challenging concept of finding fit. I feel like a lot of students see this as a very stressful thing because choosing a college, it is one of the biggest decisions that you will ever make in your life. And it will influence so many aspects of what your life, the path that your life takes. So when you decide to study, it will influence maybe what you do after college, who you meet, who you partner with, those types of things. And I say all of this at the same time that I want to tell you, it's not like finding a soulmate. There are over 4,000 colleges and universities in this country. And so there are lots of different schools that are going to be a good fit for you. You just have to find the thing that feels good to you at the time and where you are in your life. This is a place that's hopefully going to be your home in the case of a residential institution, or perhaps you'll decide that a two-year school where you live at your own home or your current home is the best fit. But ultimately, choosing a college really does have a big impact on a lot of your life. And so I want you to know that there are lots of resources out there to help you with this decision. So what exactly is fit? When we talk to the students, a lot of times we talk about three major components of fit. And that includes academics, community, and then the financial piece. So academics, hopefully you're looking at colleges and universities because you are very interested in studying a particular topic. A lot of students do have an idea of what they want to major in when they go to college, but others totally don't. They just know that they want to have a college experience. So maybe one of the first things to do is to figure out if you have an academic interest, and then what are the schools that offer that for you. And then community. So that includes where the institution is located, what kind of city or town it's in, does it have access to the different services and other opportunities that you're looking for. And then what is the campus itself like? Do they have the clubs and student organizations that you care about? Are there opportunities to participate in athletics or school sports, or are there churches nearby? It all depends on what you're looking for in terms of community. And then finally, that third piece is the financial fit. And a lot of times, students will look at the initial price tag of an institution, and maybe they've been given some parameters by their parents or families, and they just see that price tag and they get sticker shock and decide that's not a good fit for me. And while it is definitely important to have a realistic conversation with all the people in your life who will be helping you pay for college, or you yourself, if you're taking that on, figuring out what you can afford, don't make the decision about the financial fit until you see what the college or university has to offer you in terms of financial aid. Sometimes the schools that are the most expensive are the ones who offer the most amount of aid. And so you never know exactly what you're going to qualify for. So those are three very important parts of fit. Now, how do you find fit? A lot of times we advise students to start with self-assessment. Look at your own interests and values, your test scores, your GPA. So you want to make sure that you're applying to schools that will challenge you academically if that's what you're looking for. Or maybe you need to be honest with yourself and say, oh, I need some remediation, some extra practice maybe in math or science before I go for an engineering degree. And then look for what kind of experience do you want to have at a college or university. Be really honest with yourself and with your family, and then that will help you figure out which direction to go. The next thing is that you can learn about the different options. So there's public versus private schools. Public schools generally get money from the state or federal government, while private institutions tend to be funded more by donors. There's two-year schools, four-year schools. There are trade schools even to consider. Sometimes the right fit for students is not necessarily college. It may be someplace else entirely. So looking at the different options here, do you want to live on campus? Do you want to go to a big school? Do you want to stay in the state of Colorado, or do you want to travel to Pennsylvania? Do you want to have a lot of engagement with faculty, because the size definitely matters in that case? Are there the involvement opportunities? Do you want What kind of support do you need? And what are the admissions guidelines? And then finally, what are the financial aid options? You might be eligible for scholarships or loans or work study, all of the different things that schools offer. It's important to get the full picture. And once you have an idea of what you're hoping to have as your college experience, you can start researching very specific institutions. And there's a number of ways to do that. that I've listed here. And of course, this list is not exhaustive. There are plenty of other opportunities for you, but one of the first really low stakes way of getting information from an institution is to join a college mailing list. And that's really easy to do. If you send us your email address, I guarantee you all 3 of our institutions are going to send you tons of information. And you can always opt out of those messages as you start to narrow down your choices, but it will give you a very good idea of the different opportunities that schools offer. Also, some of the benefits of the pandemic is that many of our institutions created or really expanded our virtual tour options, the videos that we have online, and our webinar offerings. So even if you're not able to come to campus, you can still get a feel for what schools have to offer. Ultimately, if you've got the means and opportunity, we're always going to recommend that you schedule a visit. Come to campus, walk around, see how you actually feel when you're on our campus. Do you feel comfortable around the other students? Are there resources and things available? A lot of times students will say that as they're walking around campus, they just know that a school is a right fit. Other things that you can do, you can check out social media. Lots of us have Facebook pages, Instagram, Snapchat. Join online communities specifically for admitted students, because you'll get to meet lots of other students who are considering that school. And then always, I'm going to encourage you, since I am an admissions counselor, to connect with an admissions counselor. It's our job to help you and your family through this process, and we're always willing to answer questions for you. So these are some ways that you can gather information about specific institutions. Ultimately, it will just come down to the way that you feel and the experience that you're hoping to have. Now, briefly, I'm going to talk a little bit about public institutions, because as I said, with more than 4,000 colleges and universities in this country, there's a ton to choose from. So public universities here in Colorado, the 2 big school systems that you'll likely be familiar with are the University of Colorado system with the flagship institution in Boulder, and Colorado State University, which is Colorado's land grant institution. For us as public institutions, our primary goal is to serve the citizens of Colorado. And so we tend to be very accessible in terms of financial aid, in terms of admissibility, and that sort of thing. So a lot of students, while they do consider public institutions, I know that many times we're seen as the backup school or the safety school, and that's okay. We're fine being your backup if that's what it takes. But we also have a lot of great things to recommend us. Just briefly, we are very affordable, especially if you are looking at a state institution, a public institution in the state where you live. It can be more expensive for non-residents, but we do offer a lot of financial aid. Being a big school, we have lots of students, which means tons of diversity, not just in terms of race and ethnicity, but where students are coming from. Large schools tend to have students from all 50 states and a lot of international students. We have many academic programs, so not just bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, excuse me, but also doctoral programs. And so then that means that there are opportunities for research, to actually work with professors and to get some hands-on experience in your field before you graduate. There's also lots of other enrichment activities, things like honors programs or study abroad. At Colorado State, we have study abroad programs in all 7 continents, including Antarctica. And so those are things to take into consideration. Student activities are a big deal too, because it's really going to impact how involved you are, what your experience is going to be like. We often will talk about how we have more than 600 clubs and student organizations, and that can feel very overwhelming. But the most important thing to know is that there are chances for you to meet people with similar interests, whether that's a hobby club, academics, religious, political, all different types of ways to meet other people and form your community. At a large school, you can get lost in the crowd if that's what you want, but you can also make it feel a lot smaller. In terms of our athletic programs, We, as a Division I school, have a lot of school spirit. If you want to be at a school that you can go to football games on Saturday afternoons, bigger schools tend to have that, but it doesn't mean that small schools don't. And then we also have tons of resources for supporting students, whether that's tutoring or counseling, whether it's the health center, or if you need accommodations due to a learning difference. There are always going to be people around who can help you. Being a large school also means lots of opportunities for networking. We have alumni all over the country and all over the world. And so that can help you when looking for internships or your first job. So career assistance is also something that big schools do really well. And a lot of times you're able to keep coming back for that career assistance even after you graduate. So I know I spoke really fast. I want to make sure that Angie and Matt have plenty of time, but those are just some of the benefits of a public university. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Angie, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about liberal arts colleges.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I want to offer some thoughts, but say first that these are meant to complement what Kelly's talked about here. I think that was a wonderful overview of thinking about fit. And so I want to build on that and talk about fit and match with regard to small private liberal arts colleges and what these types of places would offer to you. They are really interesting, wonderful places. They tend to be, liberal arts colleges tend to be smaller, and they do tend to be private. And maybe just to think about what would set a liberal arts college apart, I think these are some important notes. It's an environment where we rely heavily on student participation and a high level of student and faculty interaction that can lead to really substantial, important mentorship and collaboration. And so we see students really as the full focus of our faculty. They'll do their research, but they will tend to do research with undergraduate students on their research team. So everything becomes that teaching opportunity. I would draw your attention to this last piece about liberal arts colleges tending to be small and residential. They have that smaller enrollment and smaller class size and student faculty ratio. And what that allows for that we think is really valuable is having those faculty really become mentors and research partners for our students. It is a big fish in a small pond kind of thing, right? You've heard that before. I don't love this picture because I think that fish looks like it needs a little more room. But you know the saying, big fish, small pond, the opportunity to really stand out in an environment where all of these things are true. The classes are on the whole smaller than at larger universities. They will be largely, maybe universally taught by professors, not by graduate students. Many of these small liberal arts colleges are also completely undergraduate, so there are no graduate students around, and the full focus is on the undergraduate experience. The teaching is done by faculty, and those faculty will place a high priority on teaching. I'll give you an example for Dickinson. Our faculty are judged like faculty in other places on their research and their publications. But the third element, if there's a three-legged stool, the third element is their teaching. Teaching is so central to how we view the strength of our faculty and how we evaluate the quality of our faculty. As a student, your work in this kind of small liberal arts college environment is going to be reviewed really carefully. You're going to do a lot of writing. And one of the great skill sets that we know students take from this experience is that they become really strong communicators. Imagine those small classes and the discussion that's happening with your peers and with your faculty. And then add to that a lot of writing, you will absolutely become a strong communicator. You'll have a lot of one-on-one contact with your faculty and opportunities to collaborate. We see students begin doing research on faculty research teams as early as the first year of college, and opportunities to do independent research can come up as early as sophomore year, junior, senior year. They become quite common. The liberal arts curriculum is a type that can provide a lot of freedom. The idea of the liberal arts is that you have your specialization, but there's almost equal priority placed on the breadth that the breadth of perspectives that you gain for work across a lot of disciplines. So it's the whole academic philosophy lends itself to providing a lot of freedom. The smallness lends itself to really individual advising and not a lot of bureaucracy, but a lot of really, we can tailor this thing to what you specifically want to do. A lot of those kinds of opportunities. So on screen for you, a couple of questions that you can ask yourself as you think about fit. And I want to kind of lay this up against what Kelly shared, right? These questions you ask yourself about the kind of environment that might be right for you. And then let me just touch briefly, because private college costs can really be off-putting. It can really worry you. You might look at that and say, no way I can do that. Again, I'll give you an example from the college that I represent, where we have about 2,300 students and a budget of $63 million a year to provide financial aid and merit scholarships to a student body of 2,300. So there is a huge emphasis on making the college accessible. And while the costs might be comfortable for some, we want to make sure that the diversity in our student body, including socioeconomic diversity, is assured by the funds that we make available. So merit scholarships go up to $40,000 a year, and need-based financial aid can go up to the full cost of attendance. I want to throw out one other thought before I wrap up and pass it over to Matt, and that is that every college has what's called a net price calculator on the website. This is a tool that the particular college will design. Some of them are tools used by a number of schools, but our own formulas for awarding financial aid get worked into these tools, so that for the schools that make your final list or near final list, that net price calculator done for each of those schools can really be a great way to understand how that school will evaluate and assess your family contribution and what the funds would be expected of you. And then I will say, for much of private higher education, our commitment is to put together need-based financial aid packages that meet the rest of the cost of attendance. Okay, I'm going to stop my share and pass it over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Angie. You two have done such a good job keeping us on time. I figure I'll take one quick pause for all of our participants and encourage you that if you have questions, please send those questions to us and we can answer them directly. Or if we have a little time at the end, we may be able to take a few of those questions and answer them for everybody, so that all of you have exactly what you need leaving from this session. We want to make sure that you're not leaving with any questions. The other housekeeping item I might say is, when I advise students, or I've worked with thousands of students over the years, as we all have, at the end of the day, fit is about where you're going to be successful. It has nothing to do with rank or prestige or how hard it is to get in or how much it costs. At the end of the day, you want to go where you can be successful and where you have the best opportunity to stay engaged, and we hope to graduate, which is by far the most important thing that all of us care about above all else. So keep that in mind, and it's really about in which environment, or the environment in which you will feel successful and confident. That's what we want for all of our students. So I'm going to shift gears here and give a little presentation about community colleges and open enrollment institutions. And to understand what these institutions are like, these are campuses that are in every community across the country. They're in your neighborhood. And so these are probably the most accessible, but maybe also the least well understood, because we sort of fit a lot of different categories as you think about these kinds of colleges. And to illustrate this point, it's not letting me, here we go. To illustrate this point, this is my college's service area. If you're familiar with Colorado, you know that my college, we run 11 campuses across all of sort of the central mountains of Colorado. And so we run 11 small So 3 of our 11 campuses are residential. And so just to give you a sense of, we are, community colleges are based in communities. They are not destination locations that you often see with other colleges where people travel across the state or travel across the country or maybe even across the world. Our types of institutions are more focused on the immediate community in which they're located. And this will just give you a sense of the footprint that I work in, or and my students are enrolled. Some things that I would want you to walk away with as you think about open access or community colleges as a potential option for you. The first is that we recognize that so many students, one of the jokes in college admissions is, what's the most popular major for students? And the answer is undecided. Like, they don't know. There's a lot of undecided students out there. I was undecided. I'm sure that some of the other panelists were undecided at some point. And so there is a risk that if you go to an institution and you're not quite focused on exactly what you want, you may feel the pressure. It may be financial pressure, it may be time pressure. Community and open access community colleges and open access institutions may give you a lower risk option where you can try new things. You can dabble with the curriculum. Maybe you think you maybe sort of kind of want to be a nurse and you want to try. And yet you take your first class in anatomy and physiology, and then you decide that's not really what you want to do. These kinds of colleges give an open door to any student to come in and to try the curriculum and to explore new ideas, to try new things at a very low risk. The other is that our colleges are designed to transfer. So we have many of our programs that are technical in nature, which I'll get to momentarily. But if you pursue an Associate of Arts or Associate of Science at any of the community colleges, especially in Colorado, we have a program called Guaranteed Transfer, and every credit you take that has it's called a GT or a Guaranteed Transfer course will go to any of the other institutions, the public institutions in Colorado. Again, it gives you the opportunity to explore with less risk. You can try new things and know that those courses will be accommodated upon transfer if you go to, say, CSU or CU or some of the other institutions in the state. And the other is that many students want to be around a diverse group of students, not just 18 and 19-year-olds or traditional age students. Community and open access institutions, we typically have lots of different students. Our average age at my college is about 27. We do have lots of traditional age students, but we also have retirees, we have people in their 30s, we have parents, we have a wide range of people that are attempting college for lots of different reasons. And in many ways that helps create more exciting opportunities in the classroom and keep you engaged. The other thing that I think is important as you look at colleges like an open access or community college is that we don't assume that anybody's an expert walking in the door. So we don't have admission standards other than graduating from high school. So we're open access. So we do not have selection criteria beyond that. So we assume everybody comes in and they want to try new things. And so we want students to test themselves. We want them to take risks academically, or in this case, this is a real picture from my college of a mountain biking class that we have. We have outdoor exploration or other things that you might say, gosh, I'd really love to try. I'm not an expert and I don't know how to do it. Institutions like mine or any open access or community college may give you the opportunity to explore these kinds of courses, which maybe feel a little out of reach for others in different settings. And then finally, to talk about why we're here, most of our colleges in the state or community colleges are focused on the communities in which they work or operate. And so that means that we provide career pathways directly to jobs in our communities. And so that is something that is distinct for community colleges and open access institutions, that we really do look at trying to match students with known careers in our communities. And in this case, my particular institution is not different than other community colleges, but the kinds of careers available in the mountains of Colorado. Healthcare is very popular. That's our largest field. So we have lots of healthcare options, but we also have hospitality, culinary arts, we have welding. We actually have ski area operations and ski and snowboard business. We run those programs. So how do you think those the people who drive those snowcats learn how to do that? That's the part of what we do. And so it may also help you to think about where you want to work or the kind of career you might be thinking about, and then making a choice of a college that can help facilitate your opportunity to move into that kind of a career. And those are usually what we would call a technical program or an occupational certificate. And some examples are also firefighting, police officer training, and the like. And you'll see those as options at our colleges like open enrollment and community colleges. And so just to wrap up, community colleges and the benefit of looking at these kinds of institutions is that they're available everywhere. Every community across our state and frankly across the country has a college that we would consider a community college or an open access institution. In most cases, they are the lowest cost option that you can consider. They are not all residential, and so that's something to think about, is that you may have to travel if you want to choose a residential campus, or you could stay at home and start college there as well. Usually small classes and access to technical programs. So if you wanted to take an English class and a welding class, we can do that. Those are the kinds of things that are available in a setting like mine. And then lots of flexibility as it concerns the types of courses, when they're offered, the times that they're offered, the modalities and the like. We don't assume that every student fits into a certain type or has the same schedule. So we really do work hard to try to accommodate those differences. And then lastly, I might say, again, re-emphasize this guaranteed admission or guaranteed transfer. So you're guaranteed to get into any of our colleges. And so please treat us as your backup. Like, we are your open access. We will be here for you in every event. At the same time, we also have guaranteed transfer to most institutions in the state. And so that may give you some confidence as you think about that you may not be settled on an exact major that you want to go into, but you want to make sure that when you do transfer that you don't lose any credits, and we can help facilitate that. Colorado has a terrific program that allows all students to benefit from guaranteed transfer. So I'll stop there and see if we have any questions. Maybe Kelly and Angie, if there have been some questions you've been answering, we can open up to the whole group and maybe start there.
There was a question that Angie answered. It was a question about finding the best business school for the lowest cost. And I think that, you know, that's a common question. How do I get the best whatever degree for the least amount of money? And Angie did exactly what I was going to say, which is Google that exact phrase, and it almost always takes you to a list. And I think one of the main things that I want to say, I want to reiterate what Matt said at the beginning. Finding fit is about finding the place where you're going to be successful. And I would encourage you to keep your options open. When I was in high school many decades ago, I thought that I would go to San Diego State University with all of my friends because I grew up in Southern California. But then my mom made me apply to the University of Redlands, which is a small private liberal arts college. So I did it to make her happy. And then we went on the college tour. And by the time we were done walking around,
Kelly seems to have frozen there. Angie, were there other questions that you've answered along the way that we can bring to the whole group?
No, I think, Matt, I think you had answered another question. And I will just say the one other piece to my response to that question that Kelly was talking about was, I do think that if cost is a major driver for you, you will often find that in-state opportunities, public in-state opportunities may cost less. Although if you qualify for financial aid, you really could be surprised by what private colleges would offer in need-based financial aid. So, and merit scholarships are a factor in there too. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Like I said, I worked at the Daniels Fund and I saw every financial aid package for thousands of students every year. And we were often surprised to see that many of the highest cost institutions actually had the most generous financial aid, and it was less expensive to go to the higher price institution net of financial aid. There are a few questions that have come in here. Maybe we can talk about them while Kelly comes back on. And the first is, how do you know if a student is ready to go out of state for college, is a general question. And I don't know if I have a specific answer for that, but one thing I would say is the conversation I have with my children, I have high school children, and the conversation we have has something to do like, well, what would out of state provide that you can't that you can't find in state? And that's not to say to the exclusion of out of state. I'm all for their exploration, but if you're looking at, say, another land grant institution in another state, just because it's in another state, I might encourage you to look at Colorado State University and say, hey, we have a land grant institution in state that already has been subsidized to lower the cost for you as a Colorado resident. Start there. And then the question of whether to go out of state is really one about, is there a program that they're offering that isn't otherwise available? Is there something that is that is unique to that environment that you can't find locally? Those are the kinds of questions that you really need to dig into. But if it's like institution to like institution, you're going to go to a big public out of state or a big public in state, there is a very distinct difference in staying in state for that position, for that type. However, I would say there are very few private liberal arts colleges in Colorado. In fact, there's really only one when you get down to it. So you may only have an option to look out of state whether or not you're going to be admitted to a particular institution. So looking out of state for liberal arts colleges may be the very best option as far as giving you more choice and more variety in the kinds of institutions you look at. So welcome back, Kelly. We were answering a couple of these questions that were in the chat.
And let me just say, Marnie, I love this question because I think it gets to the kind of question that we need to ask, right? We need to think about the students that we're working with as parents, as counselors, as teachers, and students themselves need to really think about where they are, what they need. I'll give an example, and it's not out of state, but out of country. Dickinson is a college that has really extraordinary global study programs. And I think oftentimes students will apply to the college knowing that it is the launch pad for them going even further. So, again, like what will stretch that student in a way that is positive, not more than they can handle, but positive, and will provide a growth opportunity.
So Kelly, I'll turn it over to you here in just a second to answer one of these questions you may be scanning. Let me answer one very directly for Colorado, at least. There's a question about are non-citizens accepted, and the answer is absolutely yes. In Colorado, there is no law prohibiting the admission of any individual who is qualified to enter into an institution in the state of Colorado. So I can't speak for other states, but in Colorado specifically, we do not look at citizenship for the basis of admission. Kelly, any question you want to answer here?
Sorry, I got cut off before. My internet is a little bit sketchy at home. Sorry about that. I wanted to answer the question about method resources for finding the right fit. There are lots of services online that you can look at, websites like College Raptor. Many schools subscribe to something called Naviance, and that allows you to put in a variety of different factors, whether you're looking for a big school, what major, how much you want to pay, and then it will show you options based on the data that you have put in the system. So that's a really good way to get started narrowing down some of your choices. And I would never pay for one of those services. I always recommend that you use whatever free service your college counseling office provides to you or that you can find online. It's not worth paying for those services as far as I'm concerned.
So there was another question, a couple that are similar themed, and maybe I'll give an answer and invite my panelists, co-panelists to answer it as well. And it was something along the lines of, where do you start? What if you're totally undecided, you have no idea where to go, and where do you start? And my answer would be just start. Go visit a campus. Even if it's not a campus you intend to go, you don't have a reference until you go to visit and walk around and talk to people, sit in a classroom, feel what it's like. My kid, I was out east this year, this summer, and my son, he went and visited Dickinson College. So, and we didn't know if it'd be on the list. Now it's definitely on his list. And so, but in doing that, we visited 6 or 7 institutions to give him some perspective. So he at least now knows what it looks like when we say, do you want a residential or a non-residential college? What about a big or a small college? What about rural or urban? Until you go and visit and see it, it is almost impossible to really have a strong opinion about it. So my answer is just go visit, and every campus wants to welcome you. So if you're able, if you have a local college nearby, go visit, walk the campus, talk to people, get started, and then go to the next one in the next town that you're in. Or if you have maybe you have a game in another location, or you're visiting family or friends, just stop by and start to get a sense of what matters to you and what feels right.
And I would just build on that to say, use those experiences and just the feeling of being on different kinds of campuses, visit a small school, visit a large school, visit an urban school, visit a more rural campus, and lay that up against the students' experiences, right? Like what have been their most successful academic experiences, and how could they find a college or university environment that's gonna help them thrive again. So yeah, I think seeing campuses is really pretty priceless. And I think, Kelly, you brought up the virtual offerings. If you really are fascinated, one person asked in the Q&A about international colleges. If you're really fascinated with schools that are at a distance where going and just walking about might not be feasible at the research stage, do the virtual tour and do several of those virtual tours. Try to do several in-person tours so that you begin to find the patterns for the type of places that feel like a good fit.
There's a question about what type of college might be most committed to helping students successfully land a job. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say almost all colleges are really committed to that. It doesn't really matter the size. I would say one of the most important things is to find a school where you can get some hands-on experience before you graduate, because that's going to help you in the career search. If you can do research or participate in an internship or that sort of thing, that's really going to help. Every college and university has a career center. At Colorado State, our 8 academic colleges, most of them have their own career services in addition to the one that works with students from the university. It's something that we don't really feel that we've been successful unless we help you get to that place where you're finding success yourself. And for most people, that means getting a job when you graduate. And so we're all going to make that effort. And then towards that end, there's a question about pre-med versus and I would just like to also address that for most schools in Colorado, pre-med is not a major in itself. You need to pick a major that is in a subject that you would like to study and is a career path for you, even if you don't end up going to medical school. Sometimes you start taking those courses and like Matt said, you take your first anatomy and physiology class and you find out that maybe that's not going to be the right fit for you. Advising, like a pre-med track or a way, can you still hear me? All right, most will have advising to help you not just complete your major, but also prepare for medical school, because there's so much more involved in that process in terms of needing to get volunteer hours and testing and all of that. So I would look for a school that has that pre-professional advising, and then that will also help you towards the career path. And I see Jenny's back. That means we're out of time.
I just want to thank all of our panelists so much. This is a very informative panel and there's great questions. So I want to give a second to say, panelists, is there a way that our attendees can get in contact with you if they still have questions that they'd like answered?
Matt, I think Kelly and I have put our contact email addresses into the chat. You should put yours there too. Folks are going to want to follow up with you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. And again, a big thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you for joining us today. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 5-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide. And we encourage you to check back to the schedule and sign up for more sessions over the next few days. There's a lot going on. It's very exciting. You'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other sessions recordings at strivescan.com/Greater Denver. That's strivescan.com/Greater Denver. Thank you very much. We'll see you at another session.
Thank you.